Hi, I'm Tina, MSearch's founder and president. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Delivered, where we discuss and unpack the big ideas behind what's happening in business and recruitment today. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to welcome Andrea Eighme, a dear friend, a wife and supermom to three amazing kids, a former Division One soccer athlete, a dynamic leader and connector, and who for the past 2.5 years has led the talent acquisition team globally for AG1, which is Athletic Greens. Most of you know who they are. They're redefining the foundational nutrition and wellness around the world with its game-changing supplement that millions of us take every day. So welcome, Andrea. So excited to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And actually, Andrea, and I'm going to introduce you in a minute, Gianna, because there's a bit of a full circle moment here. So Andrea and I actually go way back. Andrea, you were a candidate of mine about 5 years ago. You and I chatted when you were at AWS, and you were kind of just, dipping your toe in, but we just really became friends. We connected, we became friends. And a few years later, of course, we placed you at AG1. And the full circle moment is really when I had approached you and said, hey, I'm looking for a fantastic recruiter for my team. Do you know anyone? And lo and behold, our beautiful Gianna Prosperi came to us through you, Andrea.
I know. It's so exciting. It's funny, Tina. I remember the first time that you and I spoke. I was on vacation and I was at a resort. I was literally looking over the ocean and
Yeah,
talking to you. And I knew at that point that you and I would be connected forever. And
I
so we
didn't know
have.
that. That's very
And
sweet.
Gianna and I, we were connected at Capsule. And I'm just so happy to see Gianna, you working with Tina. I couldn't think of a better match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
it's
exciting.
been almost 3 years. So
That's
that's
crazy.
crazy. And I remember the time Andrea called me to me with Tina. I remember where I was standing, and I know there was just like a layoff that happened at Capsule, and that's why I was looking for something new. So it's been quite the journey.
So
Yeah, it
here we
has.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are today, and Gianna, is just thriving at MSearch. She's now our executive search manager. And again, thanks, Andrea, for bringing her to us.
Of course. Of course. That's, it's important to stay networked, and this is what happens. Here we are.
And that's exactly, I was thinking about it as well. And I thought, you know what, in so many ways, this conversation is about leadership and growth, but it's also about the power of relationships and just how they continue to be full circle. So, and that's why I'll be honest, I love what I do because there's so many times somebody will connect on LinkedIn and it's like, hold on a minute, wow, I know them through this person. And there's just a whole spiral effect of connections, which is great.
It is. You never know when you're going to need something, run into somebody for something, or work with somebody again at a
Yeah,
company. So
absolutely. So, I guess to get us started, Andrea, I think it'd be really great if you could just talk us through your journey from AWS to Capsule and now obviously leading talent at AG1. I'd love to hear that story and for the viewers out there to hear your journey.
yeah, I think my journey is it's not it wasn't an easy one. And when I think about Amazon, it was an interesting time for me. The week before Amazon called and recruited me, I was actually in the process of potentially retiring. My thought process was I was going to stay back with my family. We lived on a horse farm at that point in time, and we had
Wow.
decided as a family that this was a point in time where I was burnt out and I was going to stay home and be a horse person. And, you know, I got a phone call from Amazon. And at the time, my husband, I believe, was mad at me because I was excited about this call from Amazon. And we had just made all these family plans. And I got on a plane and I flew to Seattle. And, there I was in Seattle.
Yeah.
And Amazon's process is known for being hard. You go through this very intense day of interviews. You have to get through the bar raiser. And I was unprepared. I just literally got on an airplane on a whim and
Why am I
went to
not
Seattle.
surprised? You being spontaneous, Andrea, doesn't surprise me there.
I can be known for on Andrea sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I flew out there and really didn't do any research, all the things that I would tell somebody not to do. But I had nothing to lose at that point because I thought I was retiring. Went through the interview process, fell in love with all these smart people. I didn't realize that there could be so many smart people in one room at any given time. And it was just something that really motivated me and kind of lit that spark again in my career. And
Hmm.
so, looking forward, I took that role. I was one of the first Amazon remote leaders that was
Amazing.
joining the company. So that was pretty progressive at that point. I think it was 2017.
Yeah.
And, I had that experience at Amazon where I learned all the ins and outs of Amazon because I worked half of my time at Amazon operations and then the other half at AWS. And so
Mhm.
I got to see the high volume world and help build pod recruiting for Amazon. And then I got to go over to the tech side of things and what any other company would consider high volume, but more niche technical roles and leading teams that were very specialized in what they were doing globally. And that really kind of completed my tool belt of
Hmm.
experience within TA. So from there,
Yeah.
I was ready for, what's next for me. I need another problem to solve. And it was a
Hmm.
good time for me to jump into a startup and get that experience directly. I was recruited to Capsule. I went in and really got that exposure to work directly with the founder, directly in the work, and really roll my sleeves up and get gritty. I've been a gritty leader my whole career, but
Yeah.
this was, truly getting in the weeds and having physical, events to hire bikers, things that I wasn't going to do at Amazon. And so, I got that startup experience. And from there, I went over to AG1 with the help of you, Tina.
Yeah.
It was after layoffs. And that was the first time, and we can get into this, but that was the first time I had a low point in my career and had to really believe in myself to figure out that next journey. And flash forward to, three offers
Yeah.
later, I was able to handpick where I was going just based
Yeah.
on my belief in myself.
Yeah.
And 2.5 years later, I'm at AG1.
Yeah, yeah, and it is definitely. I mean, again, I remember as well, speaking to, Roslyn, obviously, your amazing Chief People Officer at AG1, and I remember speaking to her, and she was describing this person that she was looking for. I'm like, I got the person. I got the person for you. And I just knew, just based on, again, your background, not only your TA background, but also your sports, your wellness, your interest, not only interest, but your passion for health and wellness. And I think it's just such a good match in terms of your, background as a professional athlete. So I guess that leads me to my kind of next question there. How has being a professional athlete kind of prepared you in your career journey? Kind of some of the
Yeah,
parallels between it. I'd love to know.
I would say, first of all, playing sports at the highest level is, to me, literally, it's everything in my career and what's made me be who I am. It isn't necessarily that I reached like the pinnacle of D1 soccer. I played D1 soccer for Arizona State. It
Hmm.
wasn't really that part of the journey that made me who I was. It was getting there. It was the process. It was the struggle. And I was
Hmm.
not one of those athletes that was naturally the best. I actually had a lot of, I guess, turmoil, a lot of challenges. I had points in time where I was cut from my club teams in high school
Wow.
and moved over to the B team. I had people tell me they didn't believe in me. And for me, that was literally just fuel to my fire. It was ammunition for me to just grind and work harder and figure out how to learn to be better. And I didn't come
Mm.
from parents that were athletes. And so they'd never been down that journey before and did not know how to get me there, didn't know how to help, and were really, you know, they didn't give me direction because they didn't have it. And
Yeah.
so for me, that journey that I went through, still believing in myself and pushing myself, I
Mm.
didn't peak as an athlete until I was 17.
Mm.
And normally at that point in time, it's too late. Colleges have already picked their best athletes for their soccer teams. But I didn't give up. I literally found a public park in Columbus, Ohio, where I lived at the time and started playing soccer with grown men. They were teams of South African soccer players.
Oh, wow.
And I just put myself out there and said, they're going to kick my butt, but
Yeah.
I'm going to get better because they're kicking my butt. And that's exactly what I did to get myself ready for for D1 soccer. I would tell you that I was very good. I was a very good academic student, and so I could have gone to any college that I wanted to. I could have picked an Ivy League college. I went on visits to places like UNC Chapel Hill.
Mm.
But what I wanted to do was I wanted to play D1 soccer for one of the best programs in the nation and prove that I could get there. And I was
Yep.
not recruited by those best D1 soccer programs because I peaked so late and it took me that long to get there. And so, I mean, I literally found the guy that does production for my father's company that he was an executive at and asked him to come to a park and brought all my friends that were soccer players and we had a pickup game that he videoed. I still have the video actually, and sent it to
I
the
want to
school
see
that I went
that.
to play. Yes, we just watched it recently. It's hilarious. They don't do the videos like that nowadays. But I went and got invited to a private walk-on to Arizona State, and that was my end. And I went
Yeah.
there totally fit, prepared. I had worked my butt off, and made the team and ended up working my way into starting on Arizona State soccer team. So
Yeah.
how that's transitioned is I understand the resilience, the hard work,
Yeah.
the mental strength that you have to have, the belief in yourself. It's really easy to get hung up on what people tell you you are, or tell you
Mhm.
who you are, or tell you what you can't do. And if you listen to other people, then you can't. But if you
Yeah.
listen to yourself and you know yourself and you're willing to do the work, you can get there. And that's literally what I've taken into
Yeah.
my career and
Yeah.
into my life as a mom too, which has probably been hard for my kids too, right?
Yeah. You need a lot of patience, grit, and everything else,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
One of the hardest jobs I think we could do is be a mom, right?
yes, yes, yes. One of the
And
hardest things to
most
do is
meaningful.
watching your kids
Yeah.
perform in sports and to know
Hmm.
what you've been through and to not want them to feel the grit and pain that you felt going through the challenges to get what you wanted, but you can't help them. You can
Yeah.
Yeah.
just support them. That's very
Yeah.
difficult.
But
And
I
you have
mean, it
40
does.
kids, don't you, Andrea? You were telling us, I know your daughter. Can you share a bit more about that? Because I think it's clearly the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
It doesn't. It doesn't. My daughter, I told her she could play any sport but soccer, and somehow she chose soccer. And so she has been playing soccer since she was a little kid, and she is playing at the highest level. It's called ECNL, which is the highest level league for female soccer players. And she travels all over the place. We're flying next week to Georgia for some more games, and we fly for games, and it's a big deal. So it's high pressure environment
Yeah.
where as they get older, they realize they have less time until they get to school. And so the pressure starts to kick up for the
Yeah.
ones that want it. And so for me, as a mom, it's probably the most painful thing that I go through between work and anything else in my life
Yeah.
is watching someone try to figure out how to learn to be mentally tough and learn
Yeah.
to go through the grind and get through the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that could be a better mentor than you. So she's lucky to have you.
Recently, I've been telling her to be a goldfish because goldfish have short-term memory. So that's my strategy right now. I don't know if there's a right strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, going back to your career journey, Andrea, obviously you were with the big tech giant Amazon. I mean, we're all users of Amazon. I think there's not one person that doesn't shop on Amazon Prime. But what was the biggest shift and learning curve going from Amazon to a startup of a, smaller caliber, if you will, like Capsule?
Sure. So for me, I don't know if I saw it as like a negative shift. What I actually saw was a positive shift in autonomy. So I was able to be an owner in my own right going into a startup.
Mhm.
At Amazon, I made an impact hugely within the organization on a very large scale, much bigger than a startup. And I did have that ownership because that's what Amazon prides itself in, is being an owner. But it's different when you go to a startup. You really have to roll your sleeves up. You have to be curious. You have to be tough. You're working with harder personalities at a higher level in a smaller environment where decisions, they matter. Every decision matters. Whereas at an Amazon, you can make a mistake and fall fast, fall forward. Let's go. You can't necessarily do that as well in a role at a startup. It's all exposed. And so just learning to be tough and learning to trust my instincts was, key to be successful in a smaller environment, in a startup environment specifically.
remember all the events that we put on for our couriers. Tina, Andrea, I, and the rest of the TA team all met up in New York. I was from Jersey at the time, so I didn't have to fly in, but everyone
Yeah.
else flew in, and it was an exciting time to actually meet the people that are making such an impact on the business, like the day-to-day
Mhm.
interface with our user was very interesting. So,
Yeah.
great experience for sure.
It was, and we had to get creative. We had to
Oh yeah,
work
you came
backwards
with
from a
so many good
number.
ideas. So,
We had to get as scrappy as it comes. We had
yeah,
to work backwards from a goal number of how many bikers and drivers that we were going to hire, how we would attract them into a building to go through this hiring process to get them to show up to day one. And so certainly, not your normal TA leadership role that I was in doing
Mhm.
something like that, but I can tell you, I remember vividly sitting the night before in the location that we were going to have this event at, and it wasn't cleaned yet. And so we were cleaning the
Yeah.
facility and getting ready. That's an example of something you'd have to do at a start. You just have to
Yep.
do what needs to
You're
get done
wearing
in order to get
multiple,
it done.
multiple hats.
Exactly. You can't
Yeah.
rely on somebody else is going to do that. You just have to make a judgment call in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say, like early stage founders often get wrong when they're hiring their first 10, 50 employees? It sounds like obviously you're coming in, it's a build, 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 it's fast, fast, fast. What do you think some of those early stage founders often get wrong from a hiring perspective?
I can tell you my experience and what I've seen from my perspective. What happens that doesn't work long term is a company gets a mindset of this pedigree is the thing that works, and this is the exact person we're going to hire, and you end up rinse and repeating and hiring that this person has to have gone to these three schools because I know that those people will be the best.
Mhm.
What happens there is you have just hired all of the same people, and so you've put all your eggs into one basket. And so long term, as your company grows and evolves, if that doesn't work, it tanked your company. It's the other part is you could hire somebody, a whole grouping of 10 people or 50 people, whatever your first grouping of hires is, and they are all very generalists. So
Mhm.
they're general athletes, or they are super niche, all of them. So if you don't diversify your workforce and who you're bringing into your organization, then you are basically putting all of your eggs in one basket because it's the one strategy you have, which is very risky. And it leads to having all the same people doing the same type of things. And it may be a good short term strategy, but what will end up happening is you will end up replacing a good part of those people, whether you are up leveling or you say, well, we have all these general athletes, but actually we need experts in X. And so what I think is probably a better strategy is saying, yes, I know we need general athletes because we have to be all hands on deck right now, but we
Mhm.
should tailor in some experts in a few spaces so that we don't just have general athletes that are part of our organization as the first set of hires.
Yeah. That's great advice. And I think that makes sense. And just even looking at from the client side as well, we've seen, some of the pitfalls of that happening. And then, replacements just cost so much money that a lot of these startups that are bootstrapped they just don't have. So that's really good insight. I guess switching over to AG1, what would you say has been your biggest learning in building a people's first culture whilst scaling fast?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I didn't think about actually until I started at AG1 was AG1 is a remote first company. And
Mhm.
it's the first remote first company that I have worked at. There is physically not an office somewhere for us to fly in and go to. And so I think when you look at a fast paced environment that is trying to carry a culture just remotely, that's kind of where the challenges come in as companies in hyper growth mode. What I like to say with culture is not like a thing that you can put on paper and say, here's who we are, just be this. And then expect that people sitting at home in their office are going to read that sheet and then be that, right? And then know that that's the culture. And so I think the biggest challenge is truly carrying a culture through a business, especially a remote first business, by your interactions that you have and figuring out the right touch points that you need to have with team members, with leadership in order to create that feeling and that environment that creates something that's collaborative, that people do feel like they're invested in making an impact on a business. To me, culture it's like a whisper. I like to say that, like, culture is a whisper. And what I mean by that is, Gianna, if you believed in something and you're carrying it through in your conversations, and then they feel that belief that you have, they're going to carry that into their calls, and that culture becomes a whisper. But we all have to believe in that, and a lot of it is adjusting to the right type of communication at the right time. I pick up my phone quite often and call my chief people officer versus waiting for a scheduled meeting. But it's kind of creating that environment that you feel like you can do that because you trust the people around you. That is probably, to me, in my perspective, the hardest thing that organizations can get wrong in a hyper-growth environment where the impact and the end result is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you can do that, because I think a lot of people, I would say, hide behind those chats, whether it's Teams or Zoom, but a lot of it is done kind of digitally. So that, and I know you guys do meet a lot, you have your offsites and so forth. So I think, that communication that you have is certainly built a very special culture at AG1. And yeah, it's exciting.
I think people want to know you, right? Like, they want to get to know you, and we're all human. We all have lives. We all have other things going on. And so in a remote working world, I think it's super important to not only trust your people, but pick up the phone and ask how they're doing. Understand that we have other obligations. And as long as the team is doing great work, it doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing. And that's something that I make sure I do with my teams. But I want to tell them, hey, I'm going to pick up my kids right now. And I'm fine with that. And I really make my life super fluid between personal and professional, because I know I can do great work regardless of what I need to do during the day.
Yeah. Authentic leadership, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to transition a little bit here and talk about some trends and the future of talent. So, Andrea, what's one trend in recruiting that you are really excited about, and one that you think is a bit overhyped?
Sure. So I think the answer is the same for both. And I do. I think it's the same for both. I think the world of technology, this AI world that we talk about, I think is an exciting trend because there are so many different ways that it's making us smarter, better, more buttoned up, more automated, just faster at things. And so that is really, it's unique to today's world. AI has been around for 20 years, but right now we're so advanced that we can use it to pick the best applicants in the ATS. We can use it to take our notes for us, right? We can use it to fix communication to make it sound better. I think that's amazing that we can speed up those things that would take a lot of time in, yesterday's world. Where I think that it's something that is a little challenging and scary is where it takes away from creativity. And so I think that part, if you look at LinkedIn and you look at people's posts that they post, you'll read the same story or post 100 times if you take your time and look at it. It's like one person read it and then they're like, I want to post like that. And they plug it into ChatGPT and they come up with like a different version of the same story. And it makes it where creativity isn't something you have to do. Being creative and having a new idea is something that you want to do at this point. And so that's where I think it also kind of desensitizes the world a little bit, is that AI portion. So I think it's both. Like there's a win to it and there's also a downfall to it. And I do worry about the lack of creativity that could impact the way that we all do things. We might all be doing then the same thing, the same process, because AI told us to. So that's the part that I think we have to make sure that we have the human element still in today's world and business, and especially in a recruiting process.
Yeah, I'm going to just add to that because it's interesting. Just in the last week, I've had 4 candidates reach out to me introducing themselves. I swear it sounds like the same person has written the 4, and they're 4 completely different backgrounds. One's a CFO, one's in HR, one's in sales, completely different. but the way it's been written, it just sounds like, wow, I feel like I've read that. And then I went to the other email and it was like parallel. So you're absolutely right, especially as a candidate, if you're out selling yourself and presenting yourself, you've got to make your differential. So I definitely would agree with you in terms of the creativity to make yourself stand out is going to be the differentiator in this market for sure.
Agree.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum, I think we could use it to like make sure the grammar is correct, no spelling errors, but
Agree.
you know, still keeping that creative element and, the human aspect to it. And then transitioning to the future of talent here. So, as Gen Z becomes a bigger part of the workforce, what shifts are you seeing in candidate expectations?
Yeah. So there's so many amazing things about Gen Z because they're the ones that have grown up with technology from day one. I have one of the youngest Gen Zs, actually the youngest Gen Z in my household. I have a 13-year-old. That's the youngest age for Gen Z. So kind of understand, what is important to them, what's maybe not. I do think the one trend that I see, and as far as expectations go with Gen Z, is they like clear communication and transparency. And so with clear communication and transparency, it's super important that they're walking into an interview and they understand truly what they're walking into, what the environment is, what the pros are, what the cons are. And they want to be able to make a decision that's accurate to what the opportunity is. The good news is, I know for me, I love eyes wide open. And so I prefer to have a candidate know the goods and the bads coming into an opportunity so that they can make a decision. Is this the right culture for me? Is this the right type of work? Is this the right scope? Is this the right reporting structure? But I do think the trend of being super transparent is going to be crucial in order to recruit top Gen Zs.
Yeah.
We could say that they are very honest themselves. So,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
yeah. And by the way, I need to clarify, I'm still a millennial, technically. So,
Wow.
I
It's gonna
know.
cost you all.
95. So I'm right on the cusp of millennial and Gen
Okay.
Z. Yeah.
Okay.
I
That's
love it.
hilarious. I think I'm the oldest millennial or right around there. So
Yeah. I think depending on the website or wherever you're looking and who you're talking to, the years sometimes are all skewed, but
yeah. But I
Yeah.
do think that transparency part, obviously the other piece, like the world is full of technology like we just talked about. So there's so many upsides to hiring Gen Zs because they truthfully have been around it for since they were born. And so they have a lot to offer as far as what they know and what they can do and the things that businesses are trying to get to or progress to.
Hmm. Yeah. Have you noticed I stayed very quiet when you were talking about millennials and Gen Zs, but that's okay. You little spring chickens, you.
We all have our strengths.
yeah.
Hey, I know. What can I say?
And
So
talking
I'm
about a
gonna
diverse workforce. So,
Yes, there you
mhm.
go.
exactly,
Mhm.
absolutely.
There you
So
go.
I'm gonna transition a little bit into your leadership and just really, I want to get some little nuggets from you, Andrea. So who would you say have been the most influential kind of mentors in your career? And what did they teach you?
Sure. So I might not answer this maybe the way that you want me to. However,
It's
I will
okay.
say I'm not a big person that believes in idols and mentors. So for me, what I do believe in is picking up learnings from my network of people and relationships I have. And I've done that throughout my career. I've had, you
Yeah.
know, bosses that have been amazing that have given me a nugget. And I've tried to take all those knowledge nuggets and learn the things that I didn't like so much, the things I loved, and make myself be the best person that I can be. But I try to not get overly focused on what other people are doing. What I will say, if I'm thinking about a mentor, it would be my father. He was
Mhm.
someone that I obviously grew up with, and he was a Fortune 500 executive in HR. And so I spent a lot of time learning at my dinner table and being around executives, which made me really comfortable to be around anybody and everybody because I grew up going on vacations with other executives. And so it,
Yeah.
it made me a little more fearless probably than it
Hmm.
would, I wouldn't be this way if I didn't get that environment. It did make
Yeah.
me swear off HR and say I was never going into it. And then flash forward, and my whole career has been in talent acquisition and HR. But I would say for sure he's someone that I watched, rocket through a major company, be successful for many decades, and be able to retire very young and live a great life. And I don't think I'll ever reach as high as he got, but maybe. But I
Amen.
aspire to be like him, and he's definitely my North Star in my world.
Yeah. Wow. How lucky to have a father like that. And it sounds like, I mean, obviously, not only was he a great mentor, but this is life experience. And to have that opportunity firsthand to experience and see the growth and get that mentorship, life around a dinner table, just having that really every day as his daughter, that's incredible.
It definitely helped with school projects, like writing specifically. We didn't
I'm
have
sure.
ChatGPT then, so I had somebody who
Yeah.
was really good at editing papers back when I was younger. So
Yeah.
I
Old
think
school.
yes, yes, and handling any crucial conversations. I certainly had somebody in the household who was very good at that. So
Yeah. So obviously, being a proud daughter, what would you say was your proudest moment as a talent leader then?
so that's a hard question for me because I'm always looking at how to fix things and how to build things and how to make things better. I would say probably there are several examples I could give you. I think Alliance Data was probably a pivotal point in my career. They're Bread Financial now. They're a huge company based out of Columbus, Ohio. And I was put into a role where I had to build college recruiting programs and pipelines of college students into programs and build a rotational program from scratch and
Yeah.
create a network of young professionals. There were many different parts and pieces to these programs that I built that are still in existence today. And they're well-known programs where we were able to get top business students. And I built those from scratch. I won a huge, company award there. And it was the time that I decided, hey, I think I'm good at this. Like I think I'm actually good at what I do. And I think I can build things and do more. And I think my trajectory in my career is long. I'm lucky that I didn't retire, flash forward a few years past that and stay home at the horse farm. And I kept
We would
going.
never have met.
I know, I know. I have my moments, but I would say that was the point that I truly believed in myself and thought,
Yeah.
hey, this is something I can do and I can do well.
Mm. Yeah.
And Andrea, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice earlier in your career, what would it be?
Hmm. People aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. I think that's one piece of advice. It took me a while to understand that everybody has their own agenda and everybody has their own set of goals, circumstances. They're really not thinking about you as much as you think they are. And so I believe that young professionals spend a lot of their career worrying about what other people think and worrying about how somebody else might be moving faster or higher in their career than them and wondering what's wrong with them and just spending all this time and energy on something that ultimately doesn't matter. We all have some type of imposter syndrome inside our heads. And so if you can think that everybody's thinking like you, then you can move forward because we all are human. And so I would give myself that advice to not waste time thinking about things that you can't control, things that don't matter. In the end, really what matters is what's between your ears and
Mm.
believing in yourself. And if someone's telling you no, just keep asking. And at some point, someone's going to tell you yes. And some point, someone's going to believe in you if you believe in yourself. And so, I think when you're a young professional, tend to waste a lot of time and have a hard time enjoying the moment because you're really looking to how to get to next the whole time. So also being able to take a deep breath and enjoy where you're at and knowing it's just a blip in the radar in a very short time in your long life that you have.
What's that saying? If the person you're asking is saying no, you're asking the wrong person. So yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
very good advice.
I gave my 5-year-old advice to keep asking his teacher recently to get his trick words and to guess like he gets to do his trick words one sheet once a week and he missed one. And I'm just keep asking your teacher to do it again. And I don't know if that's the best advice because I think that that's probably not what they're supposed to do. But I do keep telling them, just keep asking and someone will tell
Yeah.
you yes. Yeah.
Did she finally say yes, or he finally say yes?
No, no, the rules are once a week. So he just had to keep working hard for the next week. But I told him,
Yeah.
I'm like, you just got to keep asking. Just go for it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. I love it.
Yeah. All right. For our startup founders that may be listening, what is the number one thing that they should do today to strengthen their talent strategy?
That's a great question. I would say they need to have a strong talent leader first,
Mhm.
and they need to be open to new ideas. And so sitting there and being open to something new when you're a founder can be hard because this is your baby that you're trying to grow and that you have a lot of pressure to, get that to where it needs to be. Sometimes there are different ways that you need to look at things in order to get the right talent that you need to have in the door to hit those targets and strategy. And sometimes the hiring process might need to change. It might need to be shorter. It might need to be more focused on a different area, different experience. And so I think the one thing is just being open to and like asking questions, being curious, being open to new ideas in order to hit that target that you want to hit. And then you have to be open to just ever changing, right? Like one set in stone process, one playbook is never going to be the right answer. It should be a playbook that evolves over time and just keeps getting better and stronger based on what you know and what you've learned and the goods and bads. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect. We're always searching for perfection, but
Yeah.
that's not a thing. It doesn't exist. We're all humans. There's not a perfect hiring process or a perfect hire.
Right.
People are going to make mistakes. And so it's just kind of knowing that and being okay with that and just trying to get better every day.
Yeah.
And I get this question a lot, just networking and meeting different founders at various stages. What stage would you suggest a founder to hire a talent team and a talent leader?
Yeah. I think when you get to like Series B, right around there, you're probably ready to hire somebody. It could be interesting to hire somebody with a wealth of experience to come in and build, or it could be you want somebody to grow into that role. I think there are different ways that you can do it depending on what your strategy is. I think, when they're a younger stage company, it's easy to want to hire somebody in talent, but I think it's really important understanding what your business is, what the needs are, and maybe consulting with some experts first, having some advisors to really figure that out. It could be earlier depending on the business and the business strategy, but things change. And then when you get to that Series D, you're in a whole different stage at that point. So it's really also important when you hire somebody as a talent leader early to know, am I hiring someone more short term that I know they're not going to be able to grow with the business when we get to this point? So this is like a 2 to 3 year hire. And then we need to hire somebody as their leader, or are we hiring the future now? And are we willing to invest in the future now for when we get to that point? Because they've been on the moon, they haven't just seen the moon. So I think those are also things that are very important to think about what your strategy is for, long term or short term. And I think it's okay if it's short term.
Yeah.
I just think that you have to be okay with that and know that that's all you're going to get and you're going to hit a plateau. But you don't also need to necessarily overhire depending on what your strategy is and hire somebody who's going to be too big for the role and the length of time to get to where it fits the person is too long, because that's also a piece that could really burn someone out and make somebody want to go somewhere else for a bigger opportunity because that time frame is too long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great insight. And I guess to flip it over to the talent acquisition professional, the recruitment professionals, the talent leaders out there, that want to step into a leadership role, what advice would you give them?
Be curious, ask questions, be humble. I think, you get all hung up on what is the checklist of items that I need to do to get promoted to a leader. And you could be doing all of those right now. I think the thing that I would ask somebody when they say, how do I get to a leadership role, is who's the person in the leadership role that you want to be like? What's the role? Who do you want to be like? And what are they doing? What's your hero doing that you're not doing today? And why aren't you doing it? And so because you want to be a leader, then be a leader and be a leader in your current role and start influencing others, influencing your peers. Make one goal every week of a new thing that you're going to do. That is what a leader would do. And if you start acting that way proactively, you are naturally going to get into your leadership role. I was never, my biggest weakness is I am not my own coach. I need people around me to be my cheerleaders because I'm not going to advertise how amazing I am. I'm just not that type of person. And so if you think about how that works in a corporate environment, is that can be tough because there are a bunch of leaders out there that self-promote, that
Yep.
love to play the politics. And I have never been that person. It is something that I make every company aware that I am not. But what I am is excellent at my job. And I am an excellent leader. And I am an excellent, problem solver. Put me in chaos. So I think you have to also kind of figure out, who are you as a leader? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Do you want to be a self-promoter? That works for some people. Do you want to just be really great at your job and know it's going to work out? You got to figure those things out too. But the first key is taking the step into not waiting and just doing those things in your current role, and it will naturally happen for you.
Yeah, that's great insight. Wow, Andrea, this is flown. Time has flown.
It went fast. It went so
That's
fast.
it. We just got to it. We
I'm
just
having
got it
fun.
done.
What's next?
I know. I think, you know what? I feel a part two coming.
I think we should. We can
Yeah.
dive deep into whatever we want. There's probably so much that we could go into.
Absolutely. Andrea, thank you so much. This has been so insightful. Just thanks for being you, for just being so authentic and honest with your answers and just sharing great insight and advice for both startup founders and TA leaders. And it's just really special for Gianna and I to be here with you. I feel very honored that you allowed us to interview you for this podcast, and just really grateful for you and your friendship. So thank you so much. Thanks, Gianna,
Yes, of course.
for
And thank
being
you
an amazing team player.
Mhm.
And look out for part two.
I'm
Ooh,
looking
stay
forward
tuned.
to it.
Yes.
Okay,
Bye.
bye, team.
You've just listened to another episode of mSearch's Leadership Delivered. To learn more and connect with us, click below or head to our website at msearchadvisory.com.